Hello.
Okay, I did it right today. I think.
She does it right every day for me
No.
because I have no idea what we're doing.
That's not true. Last week we were recording and just going
Talking
on
away and jibber jabbering, and it's like, oops, we're not on.
It's like, what is it doing? So,
It's a practice, right?
You had to get back in the swing of things.
I'm going to tell you a funny story. Just came off the top of my head right now.
Something funny. Go ahead.
So we both have Starlink. Yes, we should bring Elon back as a guest again. Someday maybe he'll actually find us, Ash and Soot, someplace.
He might.
You never know. So we stream all of our shows. I don't know if you, when it comes up, you get a choice of everything that you've been, that you've signed into. And there's one that was this Western, and it had a woman as the heroine, and she was a sharpshooter, and it's like, yeah, let's watch this Western, okay? Because it's been advertised. It's still advertised. It got about a half a star from us by the time we finished watching it. So here it is, folks. If you're going to advertise something like that, make sure that when you do this, that the person who's supposed to be the sharpshooter at least doesn't lose their gun and has to borrow a rifle, right? And gets to shoot more than once or twice in the whole show. And then when you're almost to the end of the scene and they're riding down this dirt road on their horses, in the distance there's a barn and there's a tractor parked next to it. It's like, oops, we didn't Photoshop that out. But then, to top that all off, the house, beautiful white, like southern mansion, with rain gutters and a downspout.
That's funny. So you can tell it was a great C movie or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they didn't look at everything.
They didn't. That was so funny, and it's still advertised. And I'm like, but they changed the picture now. I said to my husband, is that the same show? Yeah, that's the same one. They just changed the picture. So they suckered us into that. That was kind of funny. They have a tractor in their scene, and they're riding their horses. Downspouts, gutters.
It is, and I like watching movies and catching things like that. Or I like watching them, and sometimes you'll catch it to where this scene, their hair was all messed up, and the very next scene it's all combed.
Oh, well, that's what this one too.
I mean, and
there
it's
was
like,
a
wait a minute, what? You could tell there was a tape between this and this.
You guys didn't follow. Well, that was the other part too. The hero, there was also a hero in there. And of course he gets the girl at the end, that's the old Western way. And he got shot about 4 times. The head, the arm, the leg. In one scene, he's walking just really fine and he just got shot in the leg. And then like 5 minutes later, he's hobbling into the doctor's office. Like, guys, you didn't really direct this quite as well as they should.
You didn't research how this would truly be.
No, they're too young.
And see, Bub gets tickled too. Well, he doesn't get tickled. I think it kind of aggravates him because they'll make all these animal or insect things like at night, and he's like, that wouldn't make that then. That's not going to be. And I'm like, but majority of us, Bub, would not know that. He was like, but and I'm like, I know, but you spend all your time outside. I get that. But for us, I said, it's a sound we would think about it being at night. But he was like, it wouldn't make that sound at night. And I'm like,
because they're all sleeping.
I mean, it's anyway, it's just funny how
it was funny, and I'm like, okay. And then we really love BritBox.
I'm thinking I'm thinking about subscribing to that.
Is
that worth it?
Oh yes, because
I love the British humor. I love the British.
There's the
detective shows. I love it all.
I would dump one of the other ones to just keep. Like we have several, and I mean one I hardly watch it at all now because I'm watching BritBox because they have so many good comedies. And some of them are old.
British humor is different too.
It's a different humor, and they just pan it with a straight face, or like just they're so good. And there's one that we watched years ago. It's called My Family, and it's just funny. but you have to get into the humor. And they have a crime drama. Now, I don't know if Bubba likes crime dramas, but I've got, my husband is now, he's into it, and we could sit and probably just binge on it all day, because it is just such a well-written, the acting is super, and the whole theme, and it takes place in an island, a Scottish island called Shetland, and that's actually the name of the show.
Okay, I think I've seen that one advertised.
Superb.
He probably would like that one.
It is superb. Well written, the acting. I wouldn't want to live there. It's very cold. But and
Not
we.
as cold as Greenland, I think.
Ooh, yeah. But I think he would like this because we sort of like the same kind of genre type things, you know. And this is the mind, the thought. It's really a good show. But they have several, and some are even just fun mysteries, and they have. You would, I think, like BritBox because it's got some. There's one. His the Bouquet family, Miss Bouquet, and it's spelled bucket, and she goes, "It's bouquet." And all the sisters are flowers, Lily and Iris and Daisy, and it's just humor. Anyway, that was just sort of off the track of what.
Well, that is, it is. It can lead you to some humor and stuff. I've not been watching as much TV here lately and stuff, because by the time we finish up dinner and stuff, even, because I used to get DVR things and watch them when I wanted to.
That's right. We can't do that with the
you know,
streaming stuff. You don't.
No, not unless you have the right.
Yeah, you actually.
Certain, like I think if you have Sling and there's a couple other
Oh,
ones
is
that
that?
allow you
Yeah.
to DVR some things, but you can always go back and search them. But before I go to sleep, I try to get a little bit of laughter in. So I'm still doing my MASH thing, and MASH makes me laugh. 'Cause
Oh,
they're just
you'd like my family, because he's a surgical dentist and she's a tour guide, and they have 3 children, and it's just funny. The oldest one is he tries all kinds. He was selling his body parts.
Well, humor is good for you, especially before you go to bed. Don't watch anything dark and heavy.
Exactly.
And they tell you not to watch TV, period, but it does relax me, so.
We removed the TV from our bedroom, but doesn't matter. I usually do some reading because it puts me to sleep, or mahjong, little game mahjong. That-
Sometimes I listen to a podcast, or
Yes.
something, and some of that sometimes is anyway. So it's good. But
And you just led right into a podcast the other night when we were 2 of us were doing some stuff at church. The person with me said to look up this gentleman from Facebook who lives in North Carolina, and that's where I ended up looking at what he was posting about the disaster and these people. See how we just segued into that? That's still having so many problems in North Carolina.
oh, I saw that. I saw something different. I was watching on Instagram, and it was showing. They understand, helping other people, but they're still in desperate need, and they're getting snow and ice, and they're cold, and they have no homes, and it's just, I don't know what your thought.
This gentleman, and I'll send you the name of this young man, and he was talking about, and this was 2 days ago when I saw his first podcast, and he was comparing, we have disasters. I mean, we've had pestilence, and we've had floods, and now we have fires. So one coast and the other coast. We haven't had a blizzard yet, thank goodness. Because then
The next week is
would be
supposed to be really extremely cold.
cold. Oh, yes,
Extreme cold.
like 7.
And high, and
I may
highs in the
not. I may
20s.
not let the animals out of the barn. They may not be happy with me. We had to buy a heated water for them because it's just so cold. And that's a whole other story. Anyway, so he was talking about FEMA and everything that's happened, and that these people in North Carolina still are living. Some of them are still living in hotels. and some of the money will run out. And I was just listening, when you came in, I was listening to the live stream out of the one county in North Carolina about, people, they're judging whether you should be able to stay in these hotels or not. And some people were homeless to begin with. So they really aren't going to put them in a hotel if they were already homeless, they didn't have a home. And you basically have to prove that your home is non-livable still to be in a hotel.
Does not being there count?
It's like-
If it's not there, does that count?
Yeah, I
Not
think,
being
I
there?
mean, yes. And the one podcast that I saw, I believe was yesterday, the same young man was, he called the hotels and he wanted to find out how many people, how many families were still living in the hotel, how many days they had left. And he had money, he donated over $9,000 to keep these 8 families in a hotel for another week. Because they are ongoing,
So FEMA is
yeah,
paying for the hotel?
FEMA.
But they only got $750 for checks, correct?
Yeah, they only have so much. And then it said that they are going to be rejudging January 17th. And then again, you have to stay in touch with FEMA. You have to update it. So I just was curious because I know that in California they're having fires and, we have devastating things. And
And, the winds are supposed to pick
Oh,
back up next
yes.
week again. So, I mean, or late this week and early next week and stuff, so that's not going to help their situation.
coming through the canyons and the thing with the situation with LA County, and I remember this from college, is the situation with the mountain ranges there, and that's why a lot of it's smog, because it was in a little bottleneck. So now you get these, when you get a wind like that that's able to go through, it's devastating. It really is. So it just got my brain working, and FEMA, looking it up and what it stands for and when it came into being, and because I was curious, my mind is like that. So over the history of the United States, we've always had some kind of disaster relief, whether it was federal or local. There was always something there. People would donate, and governments. And they had
Even in the early days?
yes, actually in the early days, but it wasn't really FEMA. It was just like a local government that they realized that people were in need, and they did that. And the interesting thing, because I knew this, because I lived through it, in 1972, there was Hurricane Agnes. And we talked about that. And I did some extra research. And I thought it was kind of interesting when I looked at today, because before Agnes, most of the disaster was carried on by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They were the authorities for floodplains and things. Even though, there was a Federal Disaster Assistance Administration. But in 1972, FEMA didn't really exist. And Hurricane Agnes came, and it hit all the way up the coast. And I thought it was very interesting when I was reading this in Wikipedia that they didn't mention New York very much, but Pennsylvania and New York had the highest death tolls because all the rain and the flood hit the rivers, and they all ended up going through Pennsylvania. So New York had 28 deaths and Pennsylvania had 50. And there were a total of 128 through Agnes. And that was 1972. Then in 1973, they developed what was called the Department of Federal Disaster Assistance Administration, because they realized that there are all these agencies trying to go and do help, but nothing was organized. That's what happened. Everybody had their hands in the pots. There were so many people, well, we'll do this and we'll do that and we'll bring in this and we'll bring. So it wasn't an organized agency.
So what has changed?
What has changed,
It's still disorganized.
sort of, but now it's under one name. So after that, in 1973, after that Agnes flood, and I remember learning about that, after that flood, then they came up with the Federal Disaster Assistance Administration. And then in 1978, and it was signed by Jimmy Carter, hey, I think it was kind of funny, April 1st, 1979, April Fool's Day, is when FEMA came into existence. Federal Emergency Management Agency. So that's when it started. A little bit of history. It's been around a while now, 50-some years. But it still has its problems.
Yes, the government runs nothing well. Sorry, but it doesn't.
It doesn't.
It really runs nothing well or efficiently.
I think that's, efficiency, and you have to declare the area a state of emergency, the state.
Right, and that's why you see these governors and all do it before.
Right, yes.
They do it so that they can get the emergency help and stuff.
That's right.
But out in California, I saw one of the Board of Supervisors people was saying that, I was watching it last week, and they were saying that people were trying to call FEMA, and they were automatically getting turned down right away. And she was like, if you're getting these automatic turn downs, let us know. And I'm like, how would you automatically turn somebody down that was in, I just don't understand. It's, but
Yeah.
I mean, also, I don't understand, like, applying, like, the same day or something, just because you don't even know what you need at that point, I would think.
I read.
It would be difficult to even know what you're, because, and, of course, this is going to affect insurances.
Oh, yes.
Which that area already gets affected, I'm sure, because of, like, Malibu and different things. I'm sure there's, like, mudslides and various other things, and just crazy things. I imagine. So this is really going to affect some.
Well, did you see some of the fire insurance policies are $40,000 a year? And some places won't even cover them because of the fire hazards.
Well, and same thing with, like, Florida. They're going to, like, people that
Flooding, yeah.
the flood areas, they're not going to insure the people anymore, is my understanding. So, and it goes back to, like, Louisiana also. Parts of Louisiana, when you're under,
You're lower than
below the sea level.
Yeah.
Should you really build on top of it?
That's not good city planning.
And if you do, should we, the taxpayers,
Foot the bill.
foot the bill? It comes back down to, which are things I believe that, like, the Doge people are even going to be looking at. What are things that we should be taking care of and not taking care of? And if you have the right to rebuild in Florida, you have the right to rebuild in these wind and fire areas in California, you have that right. But at what point do we, the taxpayer, are we not obligated to
that's
help
right.
you?
If you have these freedoms, which we have these
Yes,
freedoms.
you have that freedom. You have that
Go
right.
ahead and build, but understand that we're not going to foot the bill if it gets destroyed.
Once or twice, if it's a freak thing, we might understand it. But if it's an area that's consistently known for certain things, should we do it? And do we actually have the? I know it sounds hard and cruel and stuff to even be discussing this, but don't we have a right to discuss it? Because the FEMA being a government program means your taxpayer money supposedly goes towards all these
Disasters.
different things.
But if you knowingly are, see, I did that. I did a class with my husband one time, environmental control methods, and you develop a city planning on a 100-year disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Something that it's not going to happen maybe once every 100 years. Well, but that's what you have to plan for. And take a look at, North Carolina, do we have this type of disaster with a hurricane? No.
This probably is 100
Years. So it's hard to plan for that, especially where it hit.
Now, I do understand that some of the areas around there do flood because of the river. but not to the flooding of this magnitude in other
Oh,
places
yeah,
around
I mean,
that
just,
area.
that's right. That was
this is
100, that's, yeah,
beyond,
beyond
yes,
that.
this is
So
beyond.
you would not be able to say that, okay, you're building here, you better plan on a 100-year flood. You can't really say that if you're living, 700 feet above sea level, you know? So you have to think of that, you develop that. But if you're in a floodplain that floods constantly, and this was one of the areas, was the delta of the Mississippi, when I did this class, is why would you want to build, you get flooded quite often. So either you have to adapt your building to the flooding or build someplace else.
Well, we were actually watching a movie the other day. It was, and these people, and it was back in the olden days, and so they were going out west, and they were wanting to build this town upon this river. And I looked at Bubba and I told him, I said, I don't think that's really smart. He said, no, because he said, if they get the flash flooding or the floods, he said, it's going to, and I said, But it was interesting to me when I took my geography class. I came home and told him, I said, okay, we're never building a house on this kind of soil, this kind of, he was like, no, we're not. I mean, he already knew this, but I'm like, I'm just letting you know, this is not good. And even when you go to the mountains and you see the valleys, and you do wonder, is that a good place to build when you got all this stuff that could run down on you? I mean,
yes, I mean,
I think about this
oh,
when I go
yes.
through the mountains.
Yeah, because
So,
slumping and, yeah.
I know it's maybe family land and stuff, but I mean, is it smart to do it?
It's a smart. No, and well, you might see some like house hunters when they go to the different beaches. These houses up on stilts, and I love watching this because some people are, what is it made of? What are this? Is it wood or is it steel? Is it down in the ground? Is it reinforced? How high? Because they've built for flooding, tidal waves. And that's what you have to do, and that's a logical thing.
But you also have to look at the erosion. If
Yes.
if you're putting something into the ground and the waves are constantly, it's going to erode, to me, whatever you've got your stuff down into, correct?
Yes, well,
I mean, and it might be 100 years, I don't know.
So you need to study it, and
I mean, and you can't, I guess there's no quote unquote perfect place. But I mean, thinking about what you're doing, and then, I mean, because it does, I mean, constantly rebuilding. I was listening to people in Florida during the time after this last flood that came up and did North Carolina.
yes,
And this couple was talking about, they have this family farm that they were, I guess, going to be gifted. It was going to be given to them as a part of their inheritance. But it wasn't going to pay them to sell it because really nobody would want it because of where the flood is. But then, do they fix it up and just keep living there? And then the person was saying, the person they were talking to and discussing this with, it was like, well, so this can happen again, and then you're going to be spending money again. And they were like, but they couldn't sell it. And they couldn't sell it for many reasons. One, because it was like tied up in a family thing.
yeah,
And
everyone
then-
has to agree.
But then you're in an area where nobody's going to want to buy it because, so, in that kind of situation, what do you do? I mean,
Make it into a park, campground. Let's go for a picnic in the lawn.
One of the things I think next time, because I know our time is getting low here, I think next time would be a good thing because to discuss. And along these same lines, I was having a discussion with my grandson the other day, and we started just throwing things out to each other. If you live in a place like this, and say a flood's coming, or if you know that a hurricane's coming and you have the opportunity to get out, or if you know you live in the California place where there's winds and there possibly could be fires. Different ones that I was listening to out in California, they had go bags. And also, they were talking about what things they were going to take. I think it would be interesting to discuss, what would you take?
That would be fun.
Because there are essentials that I think that we should, and it'd be interesting to see what the two of us would do. But so,
Yeah.
so I'm having this discussion with
Excellent.
my teenage grandson, and he was like, well, you know, so we started talking about some of the things. And I said, well, if you grab that, I said, think about it. I said, you know, like in their situation, they may have 3 vehicles, but they've got 7 people, plus animals. And when you're looking at that kind of situation, what do you grab? What do you take?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw one guy, I did watch an interview this week, and it was one guy that they had taken everything that they thought they needed, got to the bottom of the hill or wherever they were going to stay, and he realized that there were some important papers he needed. And he had to battle back to get back up there, and luckily his house was still there at the moment.
Jeez.
But he said it was like maybe the street over or not too far away. And he said, you know, he got in there and was able to get what he needed. And I think his neighbor actually helped save his house.
Wow.
But I mean, you know, yeah. So yeah, it'd be interesting to discuss and maybe.
Yeah, because I'm already
it could be
starting to
fun.
think,
It could be fun.
I need another vehicle. We need another driver.
Or else you need one of those pull behind things.
Because, I mean, what do you do with your pets? And I had,
Yeah.
because
you've
my
got a
friend up
certain amount of
north
time
lost her
to-
home
I know. I thought about your friend.
and her 7 pets. And what do? We've got indoor pets, we've got outdoor, and Mikey certainly is not going to go anyplace. The donkey, you know, what are you going to do with your donkey?
Well, you know, and
and your
just
goat
throwing
and-
things out there that you know you gotta have.
Now, we
Get
have,
y'all thinking too. You've gotta have your medicines.
yeah, I mean, we have a go bag that we have, but I don't know if you get
But I mean,
I
if
need
you
a
lost-
lot bigger one.
If you didn't, yeah, just think about it.
That'll
and
be
let's
a fun-
discuss it.
yeah.
But I think it could be funny. I think it could be
Enlightening.
enlightening, and I think it could be informational as
Oh,
far
that's-
as things
yeah.
that you might need, and it might be something that we need to put a list together and post it or
I'm
something.
going to see if we have our go bag, and I should bring it and see what's in it. We've got that locked up in the safe room. That would be kind of cool.
Because sometimes these people don't know actually where they're going to land.
You don't know.
So you got to think about that too. So anyway, I think that'll be fun, don't you?
Yes, see, I've got, go bag.
All right,
Oh,
guys. Well, we're
bags.
about to the end of today, but yeah. So think about these people in North Carolina. You know, I know
and the
they
fires.
still need things. The people with the fires still, but I mean, we've got a lot of people in America right now that are in need of things.
And next week at this time, we'll have a new president.
We will. Yes, we will. And
Yeah.
I think there's going to be, even from day one, I think we're going to see changes.
Drill, baby, drill.
Green Plume, Panama Canal. I mean, it just makes me laugh, and it just makes me laugh at the thought of some things. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting 4 years.
It will be. It will
But
be.
even, I think it's going to be an interesting just first day.
Yes.
Because I don't think he's going to, I think he's going to want to take the time, but then he says he's going to be to work. And
Yes.
we know some of the people are already at work.
Oh, yes.
So
Yep.
it's going to be interesting, and just hold on, because you know it's going to be a whirlwind.
It is.
And
It
it's
is.
going to be a lot of stuff, and it's going to be, and people are going to be in corners crying and upset, but it's going to be fun.
It is.
It's going to be exciting.
It is. It is. And yep.
I might wear my shirt next week.
Do I have a hat? Oh, well, maybe I should bring
We
him.
should bring him.
I know. We should bring him.
He may visit with us.
Yes, we could have 2 of them.
All right, guys. We'll see you later.